who's joined us this evening. Good. Sorry, I've just got to press the message there about the recording. And a special welcome to new members, Cliff Davies, Bev Joston, and Ali Lombard. And then our spring exhibition starts tomorrow at Kirstenbosch, as well as our annual competition. I just want to ask if you could, all those exhibiting, if they could please fill in your entry forms and your labels, if you can do as much at home beforehand, so that we can adhere to social distancing as much as possible while hanging tomorrow. For those of you who are not exhibiting, please come along and enjoy and support us and vote in the competition. And also your membership cards will be there for you to collect. And then tonight, we are delighted to have Mary Visser joining us from her studio in Salt River. She's going to talk and demo all about abstraction. Mary has a fine art degree from Rhodes University and a postgraduate diploma in art with distinction from UCT. She's been painting and lecturing for many years, as well as being part of some interesting projects. Part of the design team for the carpets of the judges' chambers of the Constitutional Court in Johannesburg, as well as the mosaic designs for the biodiversity garden in the Greenpoint Urban Park here in Cape Town. Mary has had many exhibitions around South Africa and has worked in collections at HSBC headquarters, UCT, Weber Wenzel, Oppenheimer and Sons, Sturrock Shipping, the Spear Art Trust, and Nando's head office. So we're really looking forward to hearing what she's going to share with us this evening. As usual, if you want to ask questions or send a message, you can use the chat function, or you can WhatsApp me on 072 322 1745, which I'm sure you all have by now. Okay, over to you, Mary.
Thanks, Sue. Welcome, everyone. I can't see you, so it's quite strange talking just to Sue. I'm just going to assume that I'm just talking to Sue and no one else can see me, because that puts me at ease. Yes, my name's Mary, and I'm in my studio here in Salt River. And a bit about my background. Well, Sue's told you a little bit about my CV. But I really think for me, I started off as a representational painter, mostly of harbours and roads, traffic, and airports. Lizzie, can you show slide 2? Okay, there's something. Okay, so I did a lot of paintings of harbours, and I loved harbours because of, I think mainly because of the shapes, cranes, shipping containers, boats. And I'd go to the harbour very early in the morning and take photos. So I worked a lot from photo reference that I took myself, and that's what I focused on. The next slide. So even in this one, I mean, obviously looking back, I can start seeing why move towards abstraction, because I can already see in this painting, and you probably can also see that it starts to get much flatter towards the back of this painting, and it's recognizable as a shipyard, but it starts looking more abstract. And as the slides go, you'll see a next slide, Lizzie, thank you. This one too. And next slide. I think I've always been fascinated not just with the shapes of the harbour, but also with light on water, light effects, and quite graphic qualities. that the harbour presents. Next slide. And next slide. So these are, oh, okay, that's a very big painting that looks very small. Okay, but I think it's, yeah. So yeah, I love the contrast. I love lighting, and obviously, I think the quality of light, early morning, late evening. Next slide. And then this one, also the harbour, but now a lot more abstract, I think, and becomes more about pattern and colours and contrasts. And this is really a riff on the harbour. I didn't have reference for this, but I think having painted so many harbours and stood in front doing sketches and looking at the harbour, I think I've just got it in me now, those sort of shapes, crane shapes, the shapes of the bow of a ship, buildings, and where water meets the city. I think it's interesting. This is an interesting painting, and I think, well, for me it is, that the reason I like harbours, I think, because they have that the feeling of safety. And often in my paintings, even in my more abstract paintings, there's this feeling of holding. So there's this jetty that goes out on the right-hand side of the painting that seems to hold the composition or hold the harbour, this sort of safe space. Next slide, please. Another harbour. So I think I would flip-flop between these are all around sort of 2006, 2007. I'd move between more realistic and then a bit more abstract. But the horizon line was always evident. I was very still very attached to the horizon line and needed to have it. I think I studied at Rhodes and Grahamstown, and it was a very strong landscape tradition there. So I was very influenced by that. So I think I think I'll always be a landscape painter in some way, as painter of spaces, or even if they're invented and new spaces. Next slide. Yeah, so this one is more abstracted, and I used a lot of spray paint there. And all these paintings are now, they're all oil on canvas. Only recently have I started, or the last sort of 8 years have I started painting in acrylics, but these are all oil on canvas and a lot of spray paint. Very toxic, yeah. So next slide. So this one again, it's moving towards abstraction again. I suppose at the time I didn't realize that, but obviously looking back, for me, it's quite clear what was happening here. I was trying to leave the sort of nameable object or thing, but I wasn't ready yet. Next slide. And this is quite a big painting. Next slide. So the city as well, harbour in the city. There again is that sort of holding thing on the far left, a kind of a trying to bring the painting into the observer space and not just being an illusion of a view, but rather to somehow want the observer or viewer or myself to connect with the actual space of the painting and not just an illusion. Next slide, please. And this one again, this was called Wednesday Night Yachts, because I don't know if they still do that, but Wednesday evenings in the harbour in Table Bay, they race yachts. Know nothing about yachting, but I think you can see where the yachts are. So this one also a lot more abstract, but still recognizable, I would think. Yeah. Next slide. Very big painting. Again, that is very small. Sorry, it's a bit of a low res one. So this was part of an exhibition I had at the AVA in, I actually cannot remember when. I think it was 2010, somewhere around there. It was just photographs I took along Long Street of bars or reflections from the street. And I liked the way the reflections in the windows layered over what the actual scene I was seeing. So it would start to distort things and abstract them. Next slide. And yeah, this was in my car, not feeling very safe. So I would take a lot of pictures out of my car window, and then that was my rear view mirror at the bottom left. So that is something as a to live in South Africa and to paint scenes, you generally need to rely on photographs, because it's not, I mean, I know one or two plein air painters, but I think it's not always safe, especially if you're painting industrial scenes, harbor scenes, to find ways to. So I would often be taking photographs in my car and doing sketches in my car, wishing for some traffic, to be stuck in a traffic jam so I could do some drawings. Next slide. And this also the Long Street scene, a very big painting that someone bought who lives in Australia, who grew up in Cape Town, and it, yeah, I think it had sentimental, Long Street had a feeling of Cape Town for her. Next slide. The next slide. And this painting done, I did a whole lot of paintings and then a show of paint after being going to New York City with my husband Chris, and it was amazing, just the size and scale of the buildings. So I found that, and then I was very influenced, and it was a lot of New York City paintings from then on. And again, there's that sort of holding feeling of buildings on the far left and right. So I kind of see a harbor in that too. There's kind of a compositional framework that I think I'm still using to this day. Next slide, and this one also has it. The city, and now these are invented. These are not. I'm not working from photographs. This is around the time just before this. I had my son when it was in 2012, and I don't know what I was thinking. I was pregnant when I first started my postgrad diploma at Michaelis, and my main focus for the year was to try to remove photographs and photo reference from my practice as an artist. So that was my mission, and because I was pregnant, I didn't want to use oil paints, breathe in the toxic fumes, or spray paint or anything. So I changed to acrylic paints, which I didn't like. I must say, I found it very frustrating. But I stuck to it, and I suddenly realized that acrylic paint was my medium, because it allowed me to work really fast and to layer quickly without muddying the colors and not having to wait for paint to dry. So most of these paintings from now on are all in acrylic. Next slide. So it's wonderful. My year at Michaelis was fantastic. Actually, I did 6 months then 6 months off while I had my baby, Nicholas, and then I went back and finished the last 6 months. And it was actually great to do it that way. I'd recommend doing it that way because I felt like I got 2 years, not the year. And it gave me time to really think about what was important to me in my practice. Next slide. Yeah, more highways, love cars, love transport, highways, harbors. And then next slide. Something I love are horses. I suppose the things that you love, and I mean, I think all your members who are listening now will know that the things that you love, you tend to want to paint. Those are the things that you seek. And next slide. This is another love aeroplanes. So I did this at Michaelis, and I had some photo reference, but it was moving away from that. Next slide. So still painting from photographic reference. And then next slide. And next slide. So here the aeroplane is kind of merging, maybe awkwardly, with the background, which is very abstract. Next slide. And this becomes a lot more abstract. I was trying to paint quite directly with a one brush technique, dip my brush and then make the mark or make a gesture, and not fuss too much. Next slide. This painting's very much influenced by my child, Nicholas, who was then, I think he was at play school, making Christmas trees, cutting Christmas trees out of cardboard and putting little bright stickers on. And so, yeah, I think this was like a playful painting, trying out things. So he's definitely a big influence in my life, his way of approaching his creativity. And I think children in general are amazing, the way they attack the paper very confidently and just go for it and not fuss. And there's so much pleasure and joy in that. And I think that is kind of my approach, or trying to be more like that. Next slide. Those little circles in the middle are dried paint that I cut circles off. Once it dried on my palette, I peeled it off and cut little circles and then collaged it on top. Next slide. And that's a very big painting. Next slide. So I guess this is all trying out different things. A lot of these paintings, I can see the influence of harbors or cranes or containers or movement. This one reminds me of movement through a city, robot through long roads. And again, there's sort of dried paint collage that I stuck on top. Next slide. And here there's a faint feeling of a horizon line or a landscape. But I think I've started to do away with the horizon line, and I think that starts taking a painting, in my opinion, into a more abstract place and away from the landscape or the literal landscape. And next slide. And this was just an attempt, this was an experiment in pouring and using very liquid paint and allowing it to dry and seeing where it went. So it was very experimental. Next slide. This is quite a big painting, and I've come back to spray paint, but now I've got a mask. So this one's actually just sold at Corpay Modern. And yeah, Cheryl, who's the curator there, owner, yeah, she's great. So that's one of the places where I sell my paintings from. Next slide. And this is one of my favorite paintings. I think because it feels to me very unfussy, and I did it quite fast, and I felt quite decisive about the shapes. Yeah, and I didn't agonize over it, and it brings me pleasure actually just to look at it. Next slide. And yeah, this one was just on show at RK Contemporary in River Castile. And it's moving towards a new series of work that I'm working on around, I suppose it's prompted by lockdown and being at home a lot, and around home and the comforts of home, sitting around our round table, having suppers, ladling out food and soup, and the warmth and the comfort of family life, and enjoying that sort of intimacy, and that quiet comfort of being at home around the people that you're most close to, and enjoying that. I mean, I don't think one can see all that in there. But I guess these are some of the things I'm thinking about when I'm painting, and whether they come through or not, I'm not sure. But the shapes are rounded, perhaps female shapes, nourishing, nurturing, motherly, something like yeah. I don't think I don't like to explain too much around my paintings, because I don't think I'm the expert on them always. I just do them, and I want to be surprised by them. But I found that sometimes other people, friends, have better insights into my work, and the things that come up for them when they look at them. I quite like hearing what other people, what happens when they like a painting, what meaning they might find in it. But besides that, I just like, I enjoy the formal challenges of a painting, the lines and shapes, and arranging them, and continuing to arrange and to layer and take away and add until I'm happy. And I think, oh, that's interesting time to stop that painting, because they often go on for years, some paintings. And the next slide, thanks. In this next slide, I just wanted to show you sort of the changes of a painting. It's actually behind me, the finished one, and it's on the slide. It's the bottom left, and how it's been through. I mean, and this has been almost a year of this painting, and I wouldn't work on it every day, but every now and then I'd take it out and try something else, and then it wouldn't work, and then try something else, and try something else. And so a lot of the things have stayed the same, but I just couldn't quite get the composition to work. And I think I'm happy with it now. So I've added at the top of the painting. I wonder if we can scoot over there. I don't know if you can see it there, but yeah, I'm happy with it now. But that was just to give you a sense of how sometimes the changes are quite subtle, but they take a long time. I tend to sit and look at paintings for quite a long time and change them and change them and change them and try all sorts of things to try to get them to work. And so they're often, yeah, I spend a lot of time looking at and struggling to find some solution. But I guess that's part of the fun. So yeah, that's kind of a bit of background. And I wonder if I see if I should start the how are we on time? Okay. So I thought maybe I'll start my demo, and then I'm sure I've left out loads of stuff. It's quite hard preparing for this because as one talks, new ideas come to me. So I'll just start with a demo, and if you just show the next, actually, which slide? Yeah, the next slide. Thanks, Lizzie. I wanted to show you the exercises that I do to warm up, and I do this most days when I come to the studio. I think that, well, there's a question from Helen. Hello, Helen. She's, oh, okay, I've lost the message. Sorry, Helen, I'll perhaps we can answer some questions a bit later, or so what I wanted to just show you is just one of the exercises that I do in my painting workshops, but they're actually exercises I do, and I think whether one is a beginner or whether you're more advanced artist, these exercises are just brilliant because they're simple, but it's really a great way for me to find new ways, or just to warm up before I start painting. So I'm going to do a quick drawing exercise that I do. It's my favorite one, and then I'm going to do some paintings. I think we're going to do it's going to be about 15 minutes. Does that sound about okay? So the first thing with abstraction is what to paint, how to start, and perhaps, yeah, I think I'll stand now. Can you hear me? Can you give me a thumbs up if you can? Yeah. Okay. So these drawings over here are blind continuous line drawings, contour drawings. This one I did a while back. It's just off my specs, and I find I just take anything, and I normally do the newsprint with the oil pastel. These are the oil pastels. Just these, they're actually just cheap Pentel oil pastels. I love them because you get all the colors. So it's quite, if you feel like a child again, because you've got every color. And so what I do is I do a couple of pages of different objects. These are some of the objects that I have. And I've got some strange things. I don't know if I'm going to show you because maybe it's revealing too much, but hey, I'll do that. I'll just put them here. I don't know if anyone can guess what that is, but isn't it an amazing object? It's for putting dog food on, so the dogs eat slow, I think. So it's not for me. I don't eat that fast, but I think it's quite a fun object. This is actually one that I did here, a blind continuous line drawing over here. So, and I also I make interesting shapes and I draw these. So I might just demonstrate with this shape. And the way that I do it is just, I'm sure most of your members would know this exercise. I'm not going to do a whole lot, just a little bit, just to show you how I do it and how I do it for my students in my painting workshops. It's simply, I don't look at the paper and I only look at the object and I draw as slow as I can. And I find that as I draw, as my eye follows the contour of the object, it's really soothing and it's really just, it's more of a meditation really than a drawing. And I find it's just very calming and gets one's eye tuned in to what you're working with. And because I'm not looking, I absolutely, I don't expect greatness, which is fantastic. The bar set super low, and so it's not intimidating, and I'm totally relaxed and unworried. Well, clearly, I mean, you're all watching me do this, so I'm a little bit worried. But, so then I would just keep drawing the same objects from different angles and just layering them over. But that's all I'm going to do for now, because I want to get to the pudding, which is paint. I always want to get to pudding first. It's the best stuff. I just love paint. I get my paint in these big tubs from Shub Art. A lot of you will know it. It's beautiful artist acrylic. It's very high quality, and I get it from Art Source and the Decal Edge. So the next thing I do to warm up is I do some blind contour drawings like this, and then I often do a painting exercise which is called 5 elements, and I select 5 elements from these drawings. I try to choose, I need lines, 5 lines or five elements, lines and shapes. So I'll go through this and find some interesting shapes. So I think what am I going to do? And then I'll just color in that shape that I rather like. So that's one shape. I look for another shape. What could it be? I'm looking for a shape that's in contrast to that shape. So let's find a shape. Something different, maybe this little shape here, which is a bit different. Not sure if you can see these shapes, the green. So that's 2 shapes, and then I'll choose a line. So I think I'll just choose this, and I'll just ring fence it. So that's maybe a bit complicated, just this little bit. So that's 3 elements. I need another 2. What can I use? I think I'm going to just take this, that shape, and then I need one more. Let's take this. So I've got 1, 2, 3, 4, 5 elements. And then once I've got that, I'm just going to put them on the floor. Oh, see, that's what happened. I just tore that, but that's fine, no problem. So once I've got those 5 elements, I'm going to do 4 compositions in paint. And the key thing that I find with painting, I think for me, painting's all about making choices and decisions. That's the only thing. That's not the only thing, but that's the main thing. And so to make it easier, the more decisions and choices I can can decide on before I start painting, the better. So I decide on the shapes I'm going to use, the lines, just to start. And I decide on my color palette, and I even decide on brush sizes, so that I can have as little to decide when I'm actually painting. Because once, and I mean, your people listening will know that once you've started to paint, you don't want to be rushing around trying to find this, or just wanting to find, or trying to decide on another color, or you want to have everything right there. I think it's called, what's the French for chefs, the mise en place, that where they chop and prepare all their ingredients before they start cooking. And I guess well, I've got my apron on, so before I start cooking with paint, I want all my stuff ready to go. So what I do to choose a palette is I choose, I look at any artist that I love. I love Richard Dibbencorn, he's a big influence. This is an artist called Wolf Kahn, he's an American artist. And so I might choose a painting, I might choose an outfit. That's one thing that I like. Sorry. I have a box of stuff. This is something that I sometimes print these just for color reference, like what goes with sap green or what goes with pink. What are colors to try? So I love fashion. I used to teach fashion illustration, and I love clothes. So I look at fashion and interiors. I love interiors, design, any sorts of design. So I basically am a magpie, and I'll use anything. So for this, I've picked this painting, which I think is rather beautiful. I don't know if you can see it. Just those colors are quite weird. It's a bit Barbara Cartland, the colors, not the painting. I think purple and pink. I think, oh, anyway, I sometimes like choosing something I kind of don't like also. So I've mixed up those colors. So I've copied the color palette of that painting, and mixed up those colors. And these are I'll have to just show you. I've got 5 colors. I've got 5 elements. I've got 5 colors. And I've got a brush in every pot. So I'm ready to go. It's a bit kindergarten, I suppose. But I find that also sets me up to play more, to make it more fun, instead of worrying about which brush to put where. So the way that I do it is I just pick up any color to start. Actually, sorry, I'm going to put my gloves on. I don't like paint under my fingernails. And I find gloves allow me the freedom to really go for it and make a mess. Okay, so what I do is I've got 4 pages, and I'm going to make 4 compositions using my 5 elements in 4 different ways, and compose them in 4 different ways. The changes I'm making are the color choice, the scale of the shapes and the lines, and the placement within the compositions. And it's really just stretching out, taking 5 simple pieces of information or visual information and arranging them in different ways. So I'm going to go with So this first one, I think I'm going to make that really big. And I just put it down. So this is this green bit, this green shape. trying to be quite faithful to the shape, but I'm not too fussed if it's not exactly. Because these are exercises, these aren't for sale. I mean, I don't think anyone wants to buy them, but they're not really for sale. And then on this page, I think I'm going to turn it around. And I might just do this little shape here on the edge of this paper. And here, let's do it. Let's do it here. Sort of a oh. Okay, made a mistake. But that's a mistake, so just going to add to it. Just gives it a bit of textural quality there. I definitely find by working fast and working a little bit carefully, not carefully, I allow for accidents, happy accidents, I hope, to happen. And I try not to control things too much. So I get a bit excited when I make a mistake because it takes me in a different direction. And it does add to a bit more of a history. And there's this one, so this shape, I'm going to put here and cut it off at the top. Okay, so I mean, this is so easy. I mean, really. And then I'm taking this gray and I'm going to choose this line here. I'm going to choose this line here that I've outlined. And I'm going to use actually the flat brush for one. And I'm going to place it here. I'm going to do it. There, and I think I'll do it. So what I like about this exercise is I can really loosen up with my brush and really get a feeling for the brush moving across the surface. And then I'm going to do this one, and I think I'll do it. I might be a tad more thoughtful if you weren't all watching me, but yes, I'll do this one like this. And sometimes I don't look at my paper. I mean, I don't look what I'm doing, I just do it blindly. And then this last one, I think I'll just do a friendly little mark just down here, and it's also cut off. Okay, so I've got 2 marks. How are we on time? Still okay? Okay. This color, my next color, and I've got a lovely brush. Oh, it's just the happiest brush. It's a little Japanese, or it's quite a big Japanese brush. Actually, I think I'm going to use this one, which is also a Japanese brush, and it's on quite a long, I've just attached it to a long stick, and it does make my hands look very petite, I think. And I find this is useful for being able to stand back. And I want to do this last mark, the line. I'm going to do it. And this is wonderful for encouraging mistakes. So I'm trying to not to have too much control and drawing that. Okay. Yeah, I've done a bit of cheating there, but I think it's okay. I don't mind every now and then a bit of a cheat. It's quite awkward, not a lot of control one has with this, but I love that. I'm doing some nice drips. And my last shape, I'm going to do quite big. Okay, then slightly awkward, rest there. And then I have this brush, which is what you shouldn't let your brushes do, which is very hard. But I rather like it because it gives me, again, very little control. It looks like one of those, not Smurfs, but those toy dolls with the hair and colors, colorful. Some will know. I'm sure they're saying it now and I just can't hear you, but it looks like a dog got this one. Anyway, so I think I'm going to do my last shape using this brush. And actually, you know what? Yeah, maybe I can take that one out. A bit awkward, it doesn't quite fit here. And my last shape is this shape here. And I'm going to use, oh, it's actually horrifying. It's a wrong brush to use, but that's rather wonderful because it's again taking the control away from me. I'm going to take this way. And I would, with this exercise, I would take more time than I am now. I'm just putting it wherever. I'll take more time to really think about the composition, see. This one here. That one needs a bit of pink. And do this around. This is the best fun because there's no goal other than just seeing what compositions you can come up with just those five elements. I've got one more color, the purple, and where's my other shade? There. So this is my last, this bluish shade. I'm going to change it to, I've got a little roller. This is like a sign writer's brush, which is quite nice. I shop a lot at hardware shops, and they have some wonderful brushes. I like my brushes to get a bit of character from where, so this purple, let's see where we're going to do it. And this one, oh, where should we go? I'm going to go super large and not a very faithful copy, but it's good enough. This one I'm going to do like that. I'm going to stay. Just wipe it off. The stack's quite nice. I quite like it. And this one, I'm quite liking all these things on the edges. Okay, so done. 4 paintings done. And how long was that? 15 minutes? Not quite. I'm not done. But as an exercise, it's a good start to now trigger or prompt my next move. What I would do now is Sue. Oh.
Unmute myself. Okay, I just want to say that's your troll brush.
Oh yes, troll. That's a troll. Yes. Yes,
Your paintbrush. Yeah, fantastic. Just another question also came through. Helen asked, when you say big, what is your definition of big?
As a painting.
As a painting.
Generally my big paintings are about 1.5 by 1.3, and then my bigger paintings are sort of 2.2 meters by 1.9.
Okay, so that's large.
So but that needs special transport, which is so
makes things complicated.
Yeah.
So now these exercises that you're doing, do you then look at them and think, okay, well, that one's really nice, and then use that as a painting, the beginning of a painting?
Oh, that's a good question. Well, generally what I do now is I look at the one I hate the most, or the one I don't love, or the one I think is not as interesting as the others. I'll take that and then I'll work on it. So I find this one a bit boring. It's sort of it doesn't feel very interesting, and so I would work on that one, and I might I'd start to take away things that I don't like, and to change things around, maybe turn the paper around, and just develop that. So I'd spend more time the next layer and the next layer, and respond to something, to how it is there. But I think also I think I almost never will use one of these to start a painting. It's more to get myself braver, because it's just cheap brown paper, and it just sort of helps me to be risky and take risks, and to try sort of present myself with a new problem, as it were. But I wouldn't necessarily, I don't think I've ever done that, and I may have, but I can't remember now. But I won't use this as a start on a painting somehow. Those I tend to start more with just creating a surface, putting color down, and then responding randomly with something. Sometimes I start with just closing my eyes and making marks, but I think these are just sort of practicing and loosening up exercises. I find that I might remember them or have them. I can just, on my studio floor, it's a real mess. I'm going to see if I can show you, just to give you a sense of how things. Oh, I hope it's not making seasick, everyone. Sorry. So these are, I don't know if you can see, but my floor normally looks like this, and it gets full of footprints, and I think you can see here on these on the wall here, that you can see. This is a picture that I've actually, so what I do is I often would take some of my drawings and I will do that onto a painting, and then I'm sort of creating another layer that could prompt something. And sometimes I use the shards from the bits all over my floor. Pieces of those I'll hold up in front of a painting and see if that might help. But it's very much, I'm hoping for a serendipitous moment, which is why I scatter all my drawings and bits of things torn from magazines and color swatches all over the floor, hoping that something might land on top of another, like this one, which I was quite pleased about. So it does help being messy sometimes. This, which is a bit of cardboard that I used to scrape off a painting, and then it got stuck to this drawing. But I quite like these kind of this composition in a way. I mean, it's obviously very rough, but it could give me an idea for how I could arrange a painting or solve a painting that has a similar sort of feelings. Yeah, so I can maybe take you for a little tour around my studio.
Okay.
And show you a few. So these, I don't know if this makes you seasick. Look away.
No. Okay.
So this is a painting in progress, and next to it you can see some drawings I've put up, which are just playing around with, done this in a similar way to how I've just demoed, how that could help. There are some lines in, I don't know if you can see over here, these sort of shapes, which are actually in the painting. And this is actually a line drawing of a toast rack. So that might come in elements of that. And this is a painting that's in progress. I think it's about a woman. The shapes look like pregnant bellies to me. So I think I'm going to call it mothers and sisters, or something around woman, something like that. I'm not sure. And I thought I'd show you this painting, which I've called Stacked. And it's, well, I don't know if I should say this, but I'm going to. My husband and I sometimes differ on who should be packing the dishwasher. And this one's called Stacked. So these are stacked dishes, kind of. I mean, they don't really, but it's more the feeling of it and trying to make a painting that is not full of resentment about the dishes, and rather approaching it in an interesting way about just the beauty of stacked dishes, of the shapes, or stacked bowls and plates stacked up, and seeing it from a different perspective rather than from another perspective. So hello, Chris, if you're watching. And then, yeah, I think here's my chair that I sit in to contemplate the paintings. Very, very comfortable. And these are more books on the floor, ideas. Yeah, that's about. Oh, and the last thing I wanted to show you is this is a painting that's going to be on show in October. I'm having an exhibition at the Yard at the Silo District in the waterfront. And this is all about, it's kind of, I suppose, triggered by the lockdown, but that I was talking about before about, Chris, what are you saying? Good. I'm glad to hear it.
Erasmus is packing the dishwasher.
Great. So this one's about family life, and about, and not about dishes, but about sharing and the comforts and the happiness of enjoying one's family, and the love, I suppose. Yeah. So these shapes for me, bowls, I think they're reminiscent of harbors and boat hulls. So there's the feeling there of a safe harbor somehow. And this, yeah, there's that painting. So I think that's it.
Mary, that's wonderful. Thank you for giving us all the insights into how you work and how you, yeah, how all these things sort of evolve in a way. Hey, and the exhibition is on from
it's at the Yard. It's a restaurant actually, and I think what we're going to be doing is doing a food and art pairing. So I'm chatting with the chef we're deciding what food to serve. which is, I think, quite a fun thing.
It's quite fun.
To make food and the taste, flavors, and visuals of the food somehow echo the paintings and vice versa.
Okay.
And that's on the third. Well, it's very soon. It's on the 13th of October on a Wednesday. And if anyone is interested, they can always join my mailing list, or I'll post on Instagram as well, close to the time. I'm not sure about the exact times yet, but yeah.
Okay. Okay. And then also your workshops that you run?
Oh yes, I've got one coming up next week, Saturday. That's on. That's a one-day workshop, and that's the 11th of September, and it's called Landscape Abstract. So I'll be taking participants through how to start with something recognizable, like a bit like what we've done now, and taking you through into abstraction from something known. We're going to be doing some drawing meditations, and looking at how to work in an abstract way. Different exercises. So that's on the 11th of September. And then there's another a 3-day abstract course, which is coming up on the 23rd of September, 23rd, 24th, 25th. And that's a 3-day one, which is more immersive, and we really layer and push paintings and try different exercises. I'll show you many different exercises, which are really simple. But depending whether you're a beginner or more advanced, they'll be more or less difficult, but they're really simple things that I've done tonight, which actually it's not particularly hard in its essence. So those are the 2 workshops coming up.
Fantastic. Okay. And I think, we did put them in our newsletter, your website and your Instagram page, so that anybody wants to know more, to contact you directly. Anything else that's interesting? There's some thank yous coming through from some of our members, saying, Phil said she loves it when family and friends have insights to a painting that she didn't see. So interesting what different people see in things, how we all see things differently. Then Chris Rebo said, thank you. Chris is packing the dishwasher. Alicia says that was so helpful. Professor Glenn Cross is brilliant. Thank you for sharing some of your process secrets. A wonderful end to a long day. Love being able to join you all. Thanks so much. Yeah, okay.
Oh, that's great.
Yeah, no, there's lots of thank yous coming through here. So that's fantastic. Yeah, I think from all these talks that we have, we all learn something from everybody, and it's just so nice to see, for me it is anyway. I think I speak for everybody.
Great. Well, it's lovely to speak to people from the tribe, the painting tribe,
Absolutely. Yes, more. There's Odette says thanks. Helen van Stalk says thanks, Mary. Fabulous. You are the most playful artist I know, and an incredible colorist. Yeah.
Oh,
I think that is
that's
also
from my sister.
Okay. Colorist, color combinations. Hey, to get those right. Yeah.
Although I must say, just a secret to that is I swipe other people's color ideas too. So I always think it's just use whatever you can. And I think that whatever you love is to use the things you love, whether it's, I love fashion, I love art, I love design and interiors, and I take ideas from all over. So I think it's all freely available out there. And especially with the internet and everything, you can look at anything. Yeah,
it's endless. Yeah. Thank you so much, Mary. I think that's all for the evening. Thank you, everybody, for joining us, and I hope you all learned something from Mary. Yeah. Okay. Thanks, Mary.
Thanks, everyone. Thanks for watching.
Bye.
Thank you.
Bye-bye.
Bye.